technically less than 2 weeks to go before the regular season kicks off for the Lions. Brad Holmes, general manager, and assistant general manager Ray Agnew had a press conference today.
Good one.
And so much was discussed, but there is one very clear thing that stuck out to me, and I want to see if it sticks out to you guys. It was a question from Dave Burkett. Here it is.
Can you share your expectations for the season, just after everything you guys have accomplished, where you're at right now? What are your expectations?
For this season, win the Super Bowl.
What's your expectations to win the Super Bowl?
Darn straight.
Period. This year.
Yeah.
This year.
Period. End of story. This football team has assembled a collection of talent and a team and built through an organization whose goal is to win the Super Bowl. They have everything they believe they need to win the Super Bowl at the start of the season. They don't have to wait for the trade deadline. They don't have to hope somebody in their division gets hurt. They don't have to hope somebody in the NFC gets hurt or loses a game or does anything. They believe they have everything they need to win the Super Bowl right now on the brink of the season beginning. And it's one thing for us to say it. It's one thing for fans to say it. I think it's a whole nother level when you have the general manager of the organization stating what the team's goals are this season. And that ultimate goal is the goal to win the Super Bowl.
You got to appreciate where he's at. And a lot of times teams that dance around, they don't want to fully talk about it. Look, the Lions said it would take 3 years. Here we are in year 4. In 3 years, they got to the NFC Championship, and they were knocking on heaven's door, but they didn't rest on that. They got better in the offseason. They got better through the draft yet again, and here we are. They trust the players. Look, they built a culture here. They built an identity here, one that we revel in, one that we share, one that we love talking about. We love talking to our friends that live out of town all of a sudden. And we love answering those calls from people that live in different cities because we can brag about this team. We believe that they're going to win the Super Bowl. But when you get your GM talking like that before the season starts, and you know he's on page with Sheila, when you know he's on page with Dan, these guys believe because they believe they have the players, they got the talent, they got the coaches, and they got the trust. It's a well-run machine right now. And when he says it, you gotta get some goosebumps because I believe it.
Can't wait, man. I can't wait. 10 days away. I'm ready to kick it off right now. Like I said, this team has a lot of talent, as much as anybody, especially in the NFC. I believe they have the best offense in the NFC. The only thing standing in their way is themselves. They have a tough schedule, but we really don't know how the teams on that schedule are going to be. Every year, there are new teams that make the playoffs, and there are teams that were in the playoffs that fall down. This team is not going to fall down. I asked yesterday to Dan Miller, I said 10.5 is the number. Over or under? He quickly said over. I believe that it will go over. Barely, but I believe it will go over. I think 11 wins, good enough. I think it wins the division. I think at worst, they're going to own that North Division. They're going to have, out of 6 games that they play, I think they win 5 of them. I really believe that. Maybe you lose 1 to the Packers. Maybe you lose 1 to the Bears. Maybe not the Vikings. But I believe that they can do really well in that division. They got the game at home on Thanksgiving against the Bears. They got a Thursday night game against the Packers. Let's go, man. They're playing Green Bay in the good weather. Everything else is indoors.
Here's the other reason why I believe that they can win the Super Bowl, and this is why I trust when Brad Holmes says that. Just look at the best teams in the league. Just screenshot it, snapshot it, however you want to. Boom, Kansas City Chiefs. They're the reigning defending 2 times. But when you look at their team, they lost major players in the offseason. Don't get me wrong, we lost a couple. Didn't lose one as major as Janoris Jenkins. Not Janoris Jenkins, but the DB that they lost. Then look at Rashee Rice in the offseason and what he has to undergo. Yeah, you can say Cam Sutton's situation, but he's gone. They still have hovering over them the Rashee Rice situation. Who's going to be the wide receivers? Not that it matters. You go to the Eagles situation. We've talked about how good they are. Yeah, they keep adding pieces to the puzzle, like Jahan Dotson. But who's Nick Sirianni as a head coach? Who is he really? Because they took a major step back last year, and you lost some of your Hall of Fame players. When you look at the landscape of the Detroit Lions, they don't have any distractions. They have the depth that they need. Yeah. They have the quarterback that they need. They have everybody on the – look at the San Francisco 49ers. This is a team that consistently seems to be in Detroit's way. They don't even know who their starting second wide receiver is this year. So when you look at it from that standpoint, there are no distractions, whether it's who's getting paid, whether it's off-field injuries, whether it's off-field distractions. They don't have any of that. They got a bunch of guys dialed into the main guy, Dan Campbell. They're all rocking and rolling on the same page. That's why when you ask the question and when he answers it, I'm like, yeah. Who else has a better shot right now when you look at it all together?
Let me say it a different way, because you're onto something here, Braylon.
Okay.
Take the Kansas City Chiefs out of this conversation, because that quarterback is
elite.
so good.
Yeah.
Not only elite, Braylon. I mean,
You're right.
this
His own
is
category.
Downplayed.
He's in his own category, and whatever team he's on, that's who you're going to choose. Okay.
Yeah.
So take Kansas City out of this conversation. As the season begins in 2024, is there another roster that you would rather have? You could pick any team in the NFL. You could choose that team to be your team. Is there a better roster than the Detroit Lions in the National Football League right now? You could have any team in the league.
There's a couple.
Who?
I think they're better.
Ravens.
San Francisco, still Eagles. Like, there are some rosters that are better. Maybe three, maybe two.
Is there a better team?
There it is.
All
The
things
Lions are the most
encompassed.
Coaches, GM,
No.
all the way
That's
down.
what,
And there it
Yes.
is.
That's
Yes.
that's my point.
No,
Yes.
there is not. I agree. No, there is not.
You could pick anybody you want
Detroit Lions.
to be your organization, your team
Yeah.
on the brink of 2024. Who you picking?
Detroit Lions.
Honolulu Blue.
They're the most together team that we really know. I mean, no, they're our home team. We pay more attention to them. But everything that you hear and see throughout the NFL, it
social.
doesn't look like this. This is the staff is amazing. The coaches are amazing. They're all former players. You don't have that throughout the league. It's really a different vibe. But this team has not been to the big game. Other teams have. That's the major difference.
Okay, other teams have been.
Baltimore has not.
Baltimore hasn't.
Yeah, they
Not,
have.
not this team.
But John Harbaugh has won a Super Bowl.
Oh,
But he's one guy. It takes the players, though. Like,
I
man,
get it.
You
But
got
the franchise has been there and won twice.
This is true, but that's not fair. That's not fair to say, because we're talking about players that aren't on that team anymore, whether it's Ed Reed, whether it's Terrell Suggs, whether it's Ray Lewis, arguably the greatest linebacker of all time. I said arguably. I know Lawrence Taylor, but they play different positions.
Not arguably.
Lawrence Taylor created the outside linebacker position, which is the rush in. But to your point, yes,
Thank
it's
you.
LT. My apologies.
Okay.
With that being said, Lawrence Taylor nor Ray Lewis is in Baltimore right now.
Correct.
You look at the Eagles. Shane Steichen, neither Gannon is on that coaching staff anymore when they got there.
But they were there 2 years ago.
This is true, and look at their team and how it's different now. The Detroit Lions got to the NFC Championship last year. They knocked on the door. They understand what it takes to get there. And that was a team that shouldn't have made it if you look at the metrics. Look at the secondary last year.
Worse.
Look at defensive line last year. That metrically, that team should not have gotten that far and shouldn't have been that close. But yet they were.
Yeah.
And they gotten better. This is the same team. It's the same coaching staff. For the most part, it's the same players. And I think that's going to give them the edge when they get into those moments where they got a dogfight and they got to find that fifth quarter. Well, you know, guys, we've been here before. We saw what we had to do last year to get to this moment. So I just think they're the best, as you said, team. That adversity that they went through last year and then ultimately losing at the doorstep, don't you think that's not going to play into their favor this time next year?
and so much of this
But that's
KG
not
too is like, when we have, discussions like this, we will be totally literal about that. And, the Lions have a better roster. And then you could pick out this fourth receiver or this seventh defensive back and all that stuff. Fine. I understand that. And sure, I am literal when I say that. But, for the sake of the conversation, you almost don't have to be.
Yeah.
They are in that conversation of the two or three best teams in the NFL. And I think when you approach a season where you're that good early like that, obviously health is the underlying current of all of this. But when you're that good, you have to take advantage of those years. That's why this is such an important year.
Yep.
Don't expect to be the second or third most highly talented group every single year.
Right.
It's this year. That's why this year is so important. You can't sit there, in my opinion, as a Lions fan and say, okay, if we don't get it done this year, we'll get it done next year. Or we've got a 3-year window. No, your window is today.
Yeah.
This year.
What did Dan Campbell say
And
last year?
you
after
may
the game?
never get back.
There you go.
You got to take advantage of it. And you know, we all know what this is. We haven't heard it just from Brad Holmes. We've heard it all throughout the offseason. We've heard Sheila say it. We've heard some of the players say it. Like, everybody knows what the mission is, and they got to the NFC Championship last year having one of the worst secondaries in football, and they improved. They had that team down, essentially blowing them out in one half of football. So that just shows you that they are ready for this moment. It's not from, you know, oh, they just got there by luck. No, they proved that they are a team to be reckoned with. They have everything core foundationally done to be able to withstand these punches and get back to that moment. It's just all about staying healthy and staying the course. But this team is ready, man, and I have no qualms that they will be able to at least get back to that point this year. It's just about, will they get it done?
And that's really it, Bray. I mean, you know as better as anybody. You know, when you got back in 09, you probably, when you played in that AFC Championship game in 09, you came back in 10, and you thought you were automatically going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, it's so hard to get back and continue on that window.
It's tough. You know, I'm not going to lie. It's a hope versus a no. You know, and at that time, look, I hoped that we would get back to the AFC Championship, but I didn't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought we had missed the moment because, look, Maz knows that season like anybody. We barely made the playoffs that year. We got the last slot. We barely made it in. We limped into the playoffs. We had a magical run, and, you know, Cinderella, hey, look, the clock struck 12. I just like, I don't think. Barely. But, you know, I didn't know if we could get back again. And then you go through the things, the trials and tribulations of another season, and you make it back and lose again. But just in that moment, I didn't know if you could, and it's tough. But that next year, Ryan, it's tough because more is placed on you. More things are on you. Like, you know what? Guys, you should win the division. You know what, guys? You're better than the Patriots. You know what, guys? You're better. You're knocking on the door of beating Peyton. This is what's expected of you guys. And so you have some slip-ups early on. But anyway, long story short, it's tough. And the mental, it is on you every game, all game. Because now everybody, they're going to give you more than their best. You're not just a good team. You're a team that is one of four that people are picking to win the Super Bowl. They're going to give you more than their best because this is how players get paid. This is how coaches get paid. This is how some coaches become head coaches. What do you do against the teams that they think are elite? And the Lions are elite. So you're going to get everybody's best game plan, everybody's best game as a player. You're going to get all the commentators' best games.
And isn't that too, and Maz, you brought up the schedule, and I think a lot of Lions fans will look at the schedule and be like, it's a tough schedule. Yeah. You know who also plays tough schedules? Kansas City and Baltimore and San Francisco and Philadelphia and all these teams.
Yeah. They always wind up back there.
New England and Pittsburgh. They're all playing the best teams every single year, and they always get back. They always continue to find sustained success.
Yeah. That's why we can't make it.
I'm going to make you close that laptop.
You watching the Tigers.
He's watching the Tigers. Totally not even paying attention.
One bad pitch from Montero. That's all I got to say.
I keep looking over at Maz trying to see if, like, you know, he wants to chime in or anything like that.
Nah,
I'm going to make him close that laptop.
Yeah. Good luck.
You're one segment away,
2
Maz.
minutes.
You're one segment away.
Let me get back to this. Ray Agnew, Brad Holmes. Ray Agnew, assistant general manager. For those that don't know, he joined Brad Holmes on the
Good
podium
to see
today.
Because he's definitely doing something right in that booth.
Again, big part of the organization. Guys working together. Chris Spielman, Brad Holmes, Sheila Hamp, Rod Wood, Ray Agnew, Dan Campbell, Mike Disner, John Dorsey, all these guys working together on the same page. Here's what they had to say about Lions fans. Okay, this is great. Ray Agnew even getting his picture taken.
It's been great. First of all, I've enjoyed every minute here in the city of Detroit. You know, I probably don't get noticed as much as my buddy here, but you know, it's been great, and the fans are great. I remember one time, but there's certain wing spot that I like. I'm not gonna give them a plot right now, but where I go get wings a lot, and a kid wanted to take a picture with me, and you know, you guys are doing great, but the fans are so passionate here, man, and it's just great to see, you know, when you're out at restaurants and you do get noticed by some people. It's great to see, and it's been a joy, you know.
I've lived in different cities with football teams, and this is no shot to them, but this is completely different than I've ever experienced in my entire life, and I truly mean that.
He told a story earlier when he first got to town, and they were like in the midst of a 10-game losing streak or something like that, and his wife and kids just got here. They had stayed back, but they had just got here, and he was living in Birmingham at the time, and he was walking down the street going to a restaurant, and people are coming up to, stick with it, you got this. And he's like, usually in a 10-game losing streak or something like that, you're like, oh, you suck, you guys run you out of town.
Yeah.
But he's like, everybody's always been just so gracious here and so happy. And
We're starving.
he said this is unlike any other place he's ever been. And it's just a reminder of how this place. I mean, did you see? I don't know if we talked about this. Maybe I did not because I wasn't at the golf outing on Monday. That preseason game in the fourth quarter.
Oh, it was crazy.
You could hear it through the TV.
It was a false start call.
They're drawing the other team off false starts.
Yeah.
I've never in my life seen a preseason atmosphere like that.
Dan Campbell said it. He went on the podium and said, "You guys are unbelievable," talking to the Lion fans. He's like, never seen anything like that. Just what you said, every single word. And they were fantastic. And they sold every single ticket in that place.
And standing room only.
And people they go to that game because that's probably the one game you could afford to actually go, especially on the secondary market where you can get in for less than $300, $200. Right. And a lot of those people, they can't come back. Opening day, you're not going to be able to get in for under $500 probably.
Seriously.
It's wild, man.
They have a waiting list, man. I told you about my Giants waiting list story. 1975, I'm on the waiting list.
Hit you up,
I'm freaking 13 years old.
Wow.
They didn't call me till I lived in Michigan, and I was working for another station, and they called me because they built the new stadium. Hey, Mr. Mazaway, congratulations. Your number's finally been called. I'm talking 50, 40-something years.
And that's something.
That is
40.
wild.
And then they told me about the personal seat license, and I hung up on them. But nonetheless,
can you remind me of what that? Because I would say, why wouldn't you'd have to buy the tickets?
I was going to buy the tickets and let my family go,
right?
Because I would have had them in my family.
Sure.
You got to buy the personal seat license first.
Wow.
For the lower tier, if I'm not mistaken, it was an upwards of $20,000 or $15,000 per seat. Those are your seats. Now you got to buy the tickets for them. Upper deck was around $10,000. You own the seats, but you have to then buy the tickets every single year, or you lose your tickets. You lose them. And if someone goes and sits in your seats that you sold the tickets to, and they act the fool, guess who gets in trouble?
You.
Yes. That's what personal seat licenses are. And thank God Detroit has not gotten there. Lots of places have, though.
Do you think I don't know if we'll ever get there.
I hope not.
No,
I just don't
but
think
the tickets went up, about 75% in
Yeah.
the last 2 years?
Yeah, I think once you start talking about seat licenses, you're talking about cities like Chicago, cities like New
Big
York,
cities,
cities
big
like
markets.
LA, the big market city, Philadelphia, maybe.
You know,
something
SoFi
like
is that way.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you're doing something like that. Just talking about the Lions and the fans, why they're that way. Lions been starving.
Mm-hmm.
Lions fans been starving. And I grew up, look, my dad played for the Lions. Y'all know the story. I still wasn't a Lions fan because he played for the Oilers, so I was an Oilers fan and then a 49ers fan. But I remember watching Sunday in, Sunday out, just the reaction, just what it would do for the average working man on Monday or the working woman because she was the Lions fan as well.
Mm-hmm. So
to see all the heartbreak, all the ups and downs, all the close breaks and you didn't go your way, to see where they are now, and you have a sense of somebody that you've been asking for the individuals. That's what it is. You've been asking for all these years for the individuals that run the team now. You've been asking for. You've been asking for a coach that would be honest and knew what the heck he was doing and go out there and motivate the guy and be a man's guy or be a rah-rah locker room guy. That's Dan Campbell. You've been asking for a competent owner, somebody that will spend the money that they're supposed to, not spend the money that they're not supposed to, be there, show up so you can see their face.
Right, that gives a damn.
That's Sheila. And you've been asking for a general manager. I'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
You've been asking for a general manager for oh so long. You got all three of those people, those individuals, and they're working like the Holy Trinity, man. It's working. So I think that's where you see the love. They're like, don't leave. Like everybody that's a part of this Lions organization, they want to give them love because they want to say, look, we've been asking for it. So we got to show the love and appreciation once we get there.
And it's not just here, though. It's crazy. It's not just Detroit. They packed out Lambeau Field last year. Raymond James was Ford Field South last year. SoFi. Like, they are traveling, too. Like, this thing is absolutely crazy. But once again, it's the right people in place, and they're finally doing the things that, you know, we thought were impossible. When Matt Patricia got here, we thought this setback was going to be multiple seasons, 5 to 6 at least. They got this done in 3, and now look where we are, actually saying we're Super Bowl contenders.
Just know that Detroit sports fans are the best, and I'll tell you why. Red Wings, what do they do on the road? They own that building. Tiger fans, they own their buildings as well. They go on the road, and there are lots of Tiger fans.
What about the
Pistons? I won't say anything about the Pistons, okay? But the other 3 are amazing on the road. And I don't know, maybe the Pistons back in the early 90s, maybe they did the same thing.
Or they're going to work Pistons even. Probably.
I don't think anybody's ever liked the Pistons outside Detroit. I just think that's what it is.
Didn't play that good of a brand of basketball, period, or exciting anyway.